Okay, all right. Can everyone see and hear me okay? All right. Well, listen, hello there. Good morning, buenos dias, and welcome to another school year. Hard to believe that 2014 is getting away from us. Pretty soon it'll be time for turkey, pumpkin pie, deck the halls, ho ho ho, and all of that fun stuff. Well, all right. Listen, I'm Professor Cañedo, and I'm going to be your instructor, maestro, profesor, tour guide, whatever you want to call it, for these next 8 weeks. And I'm really happy to be with you guys for these next eight weeks. So in this video, and this is going to be the first of many videos that I'll be showing throughout the course of the session. Some of the videos will be nuts and bolts stuff in which I'll talk about specific assignments, that is what you have to do, how to complete them, what I'm looking out for, and other videos will be previews of some of the readings and some of the topics. So basically, the videos will be a mixture of both content items with respect to what's going on in the class, and also nuts and bolts administrative stuff with respect to what's happening with the assignments. But in this video, I of course want to talk quite a bit about what the class is about, who I am, expectations, all of that fun stuff. So basically, this video is just going to be a recap of what you're going to be seeing in the syllabus. So I'll get to you a little bit more about the class in just a bit. But without further ado, let me go and tell a bit more about myself, find out what El Profesor is all about, and then we'll get on to the class material. All right. Well, first off. I've been in Southwestern and all the other schools too for the past closing on 20 years now. So since the late 90s. So when Bill Clinton was still president. In fact, just as he was into his starting his second term, that's when I started teaching. I've been at Southwestern off and on since '97. But I also do a lot of work over at Grossmont and Mesa colleges. So so these three schools are pretty much where I focus most of my work. For here and for Mesa, it's the Chicano Studies Mexican American classes, and for Grossmont, it's the U.S. and the California classes. But I've also done work at some of the other schools too, like Palomar College, City College, and a couple of times at Cuyamaca College. And for the most part, Mesa, Grossmont, and Southwestern are where I get my bread and butter, so to speak. But the vast majority of the classes I do are online. I've essentially done predominantly online since about the 2006-2007 school year. I do a few on-campus classes here and there, but for the most part, the vast majority of things I do has been online, and which is really helpful for me because even though this class is technically set, of course, in the South Bay and in Chula Vista, I'm actually out here in Riverside County. I've been out here for a couple of years. I used to live in National City for many, many years, but I moved out here a couple of years ago, and I live in the community of Winchester, just north of Temecula and east of Murrieta. So roughly where Lake Skinner is located. Those of you who might have gone to the Temecula Wine and Balloon Festival in recent years, you might have gone up north along 79 and gone on Benton Road. Well, I'm in that area, so where there's a Carl's Jr., a Chevron, and now there's a Farmer Boy's Burger place. That's the area that I'm in. So even though it's a far cry from National City, I really enjoyed out here quite a bit. But I still come into the South Bay and National City, Chula Vista, and San Diego quite a bit, so I make regular trips. I go down at least once every other week, but sometimes once a week, and in some cases twice a week. As for my teaching background and all of that, my master's is actually from San Diego State. It's in Latin American Studies, so a lot of stuff fits in perfectly with this class, and especially with the 141 class, which I actually taught over the. Okay, sorry about that. The screensaver came on, so I didn't see you guys for a second there. But I've taught the 141A class, 141 class many times. I just had a class which wrapped up over the summer, and then as for my U.S. classes, I do a lot of things such as labor history, the U.S.-Mexico War, the progressive era, Vietnam, the Cold War. So I have a wide range of teaching topics. So whether it's California history, that is California in the 1800s when Mexico still governed California, or whether it's things such as Watergate and Richard Nixon and LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, all of those 20th century topics. I cover a lot of that too. So I have a wide range of topics, and these classes that I do for Southwestern Mesa and Grossman give me that opportunity to cover a wide range of topics. Before San Diego State, my BA is actually anthropology from UCSD, and as for school before that, I'm actually a product of the South Bay. I was born and raised in National City, but I went to school in Chula Vista, so Hilltop Junior, Hilltop High, go Lancers. That's where that's where I did all of my schooling. So I'm definitely local through and through, all the way from my early days in Kimball Elementary in National City through San Diego State in the mid to late 1990s. As for interests, things I like to do when I'm not being el profesor, el maestro. I'm a big fan of watching sports on TV, so I didn't really play a lot of sports that much in high school. I did a little bit of JV track during my sophomore year, but for the most part, I like to watch baseball, so I'm actually a big fan of the Dodgers, so I know some of you are probably kind of grumbling out there because, especially with the Padres, having another tough season. But I also like the Tigers too, and basketball, I like the Clippers, but hockey is my #1 sport. So I used to see a lot of the Ducks games, and I haven't been to a game in about 5 years. But I'm actually going to be in Detroit coming up in November, so I'm going to check out a couple of Red Wings games there. So I try to go to Detroit about every other year, maybe every 3 years, and check out one or two Red Wings games. As for other interests, I'm a big fan of the rock and roll music of the 1970s and 1980s. So bands such as Steely Dan, Def Leppard, ZZ Top, Deep Purple, Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Rush, all of that good stuff. When I have the opportunity, I try to see some of the shows. Unfortunately, being here in Riverside County, I can't go to Sleep Train in Chula Vista like I used to. But if there's a good show that necessitates me staying overnight, then I'll definitely check it out. But thankfully, since I'm here in the Temecula wine country, and of course a lot of the casinos have concerts, I've been able to check out actually a couple of shows at some of the local casinos, Pechanga, and then Harris, of course, just down the road. It's not too far from here, over back in San Diego County in Valley Center. And I have and my other main interest is my furry friends, my feline friends. I have 3 cats here. Usually my Great Persian London, she likes to come in and out of the office, but because it's been pretty warm out here, I think she's taking her afternoon siesta. So most likely in another video, London will pop out, and when I record videos outside, you'll meet some of my other cats who like to be outside. So probably in the next video, you'll meet some of them. And is there anything else I need to mention here? No, that pretty much covers in terms of what El Profesor is all about. Of course, in the announcements, I'll definitely say a few things about myself in terms of interests and things of that nature. But I hope in this time frame you got a sense of what I was all about before I start talking about what the class is about. Okay, so with that, let me go ahead now and we'll go to the second half of the video, and I'll talk more about what the class is about. Well, remember, of course, this is the Mas History 142 class, and this class covers the second part of the Chicano Mexican-American experience from roughly the years right after the U.S.-Mexico War up until modern times. And of course, in modern times, immigration is still a hot-button issue. The controversy and chaos happening all over the country with the immigration debate. And of course, since I live just right by Murrieta, just a stone's throw away from Murrieta, a lot of crazy stuff happening over the summer, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that toward the end of the session as we get into more late 20th century, early 21st century stuff as the class is wrapping up. But we're going to cover the wide panorama of the Mexican-American experience from the end of the U.S.-Mexico War up until modern times. And to do that, we're going to rely on 2 main books. The first book you want to get right off the bat is this one called Crucible of Struggle by Zaragoza Vargas, a great Chicano scholar. He's out of University of North Carolina. He used to be at UC Santa Barbara, but he's been in North Carolina for the past few years. This is an excellent book. It's quite easy to get through. He does have about 3 chapters which correlate more to topics pertaining to the 141 class. So if you want to get a good review of 141 based topics before you launch into the class, especially for those of you who haven't taken 141, I highly recommend you read the first 3 chapters, and then in chapter 4 is when the material really gets going into what we're going to be covering here. But if you've already taken 141, especially if you took it in the summer or in the spring, then you could probably skip those first 3 chapters. So from chapter 4, that's when the main readings kick in, and from chapter 4 all the way to the end of the book, we'll do 1 chapter per week, and again, we're going to get to this book right off the bat this week, so definitely make sure you get the copy as soon as possible. The other book we're going to use, which is more of a supplemental text in that it backs up a lot of the things that Vargas talks about, and there's a lot of interesting articles pertaining to the Chicano experience, more so in the 20th century up until about the 1970s, early 1980s. So in terms of the topics and material, the information is starting to get a little bit dated, but in terms of giving you a sense of what's happening to the Chicano people, whether it's places like Los Angeles, San Antonio, Tucson, and any other southwestern cities, then this is a good book to check out. So it's by my friend and colleague Mike Orellas. Mike teaches, he's a longtime Chicano studies instructor at Mesa College. It's Beyond 1848. Mike has a couple of sections that he wrote himself, but for the most part, the book is a collection of different articles from various authors, various Chicano authors and scholars, among them Richard Griswold del Castillo, who's been a long time instructor at San Diego State. Richard retired a few years ago, but Richard is still quite active in the game, writing articles, being at conferences, things of this nature. So with Richard Griswold del Castillo and many other authors, you'll get a wide panorama of different topics important to the Chicano experience in Beyond 1840. So again, get this one too. We'll actually have some readings from this week as well. So my point is, make sure you get both books as soon as possible. Also, we have a variety of different articles, PDF files, outlines, other things, but mostly articles in PDF format. So within Blackboard itself, and I'll tell you about those sections in just a bit, that's where the article is going to be located. So, besides the 2 main books, there's a lot of other stuff, but these other items are located within Blackboard. So obviously, you want to make sure you have the Apple Preview program to read PDF files, or get one of the Adobe programs to read PDF files. All right, let me go ahead now and tell you a little bit more about what's coming up in the class. I'll go over all the main items. If I forgot anything, I'll of course pick it up again in a future video, or maybe say more about it in the announcement section. But I want to go ahead and consult my iPad here. I've got the class already queued up here, so just give me a second here to get going. So right now, I've got the class queued up. The main menu is over on the left, and I've got the syllabus opened up. So obviously, we start off here with the objectives, with certain student learning outcomes, and the purpose. So I'm not going to get into a lot of those items. You can, of course, look through all of that as you're looking through the syllabus. But like I said, we're going to cover the wide panorama of the Chicano experience from about the 1850s, 1860s on through modern contemporary times. All right, let me go ahead and now talk a lot about the nuts and bolts, all the main elements, and the percentages, and any other important administrative and bureaucratic stuff. All right, quizzes. Every week we're going to have a series of reading quizzes to go along to cover everything that we looked at in the class. So whether it was items from Beyond 1848, Crucible of Struggle, or the PDF articles, that'll be the domain of the quizzes. Each quiz is going to be 30 questions, so it's going to be 8 altogether, 1 pertaining to each week, and each quiz will count as 99 points because there's 30 questions. Obviously, I can't go from 30 to 100. The closest I can get is 99.9. Everything in the class is worth 100 or 99.9 points. But of these 8 quizzes that you take, it's the average score of your best 7 which count toward your final grade. So, for example, let's say in the course of the session, you have about 7 quizzes which are 90 and above, and 1 quiz you struggled a bit. You got 72, 74. obviously the 74 is going to be tossed out, so it's the average score of your best 7 quizzes, which are 90 and above. That's going to be added into to your final grade, counting in at let me get the numbers here. 20% of your class grade. We're using what's called a weighted total for the class. I'll explain more about all that after I go through everything. So again, of the quizzes, we'll do 1 quiz per week. The first quiz will actually come up in the middle part of the second week. I want to give everybody a chance to get adjusted to everything, get the books. Make sure, of course, you get all your other classes straightened out, parking, and all of that fun stuff. So middle of the second week, we'll start the first quiz, and then every other quiz after that will be happening at the end of the successive weeks. So in other words, quiz 2 will be at the end of week 2, quiz 3 will be at the end of week 3, and so forth until we get all the way to the end of the session in mid-October. Okay. The other important assignment is something called Chicano Time Traveler Journal. What's going to happen is at 4 points of the semester, you're going to pretend that you're a time traveler, or you're visiting various points in Chicano history, and you're either going to be reporting on a scene that's happening, whether it's in the 1860s, the 1890s, the 1920s, the 1940s, you name it, and give your report, give your findings on that in the journal section in Blackboard. So this assignment, this is something you do 4 times. You write 4 entries into Blackboard. Don't send me files. Don't send me a document. That comes in other stuff, which I'll get to in a second. But the 4 due dates are going to be 3 in September and 1 in October. Now I'm going to give you a separate video about the assignment with more detail, but I just want to give you a quick heads up about that, so that 4 times during the course of the session, write 4 journal entries, and the totality of the 4 journal entries will make up 100 points. So there's another 100 points right there. Each entry is up to 25 points, and those 100 points, that will count then as 10% of your total class grade. But again, don't worry too much about the logistics of that yet. Toward the end of the first week or beginning of the second week, I'll give you a new video in which I talk about how this assignment actually works. All right, let's talk about the 3 main writing assignments. The first one that's due pretty early in the term is the U.S.-Mexico War assignment. The U.S.-Mexico War is going to be our first major topic we're going to look at once the class gets going. And there is an article review in which you need to look at different articles about the war from the PBS website. And you're to report on these articles, summarize them, analyze them, and give me a write-up, give me a rundown of your observations, and this is going to be due on September 12th. So it's coming up around it's about the 4th week of the session that it's due. But I'll give you a separate video about this. That's going to be one of my older videos that I did for a class about a year and a half ago. So even though the dates on that video will be a little bit out of whack, so to speak, the information will be the same. But once we get into about the second week, then I'll talk more about what that assignment is all about. So this thing is also on 100-point scale, and this is 15% of your class grade. Now, the next main assignment that's due about 2 weeks after that is what's called the EBSCO-Host review assignment. What you do is you're going to go into the databases at the Southwestern Library, but that doesn't mean you have to go to the main campus or any of these satellite campuses, the HEC centers in, say, San Isidro, Otay Mesa. No, this is stuff you can access from your home or work computer, Starbucks, wherever. You access the Southwestern LRC, the library databases, and go to the EBSCO-Host database and find articles about Chicano history. Just find one article, give me a review about the topics, and this assignment will also have a separate video about this. So again, don't worry too much about the logistics and the details now. I'll tell you more about that, more so about the second, probably toward the midway part of the second, or the latter part of the second week. All right, and okay, and your next writing assignment, and this is the one that's due on October 3rd, is the Chicano literary assignment. What you do is you choose an article, you choose a book, a novel from a Chicano author, and give me your perspective on what the story is all about. So there's obviously, since the 1960s, there's been a series of great Chicano scholars and Chicano authors. Rodolfo Anaya comes to mind, Sandra Cisneros, Julia Alvarez, Ana Castillo, Victor Villaseñor, of course, local guy from Oceanside, Carlsbad, that era. Reign of Gold is his classic. Just choose a book within the scope of the class in terms which analyzes Chicano themes, and this thing is going to be due on October 3rd. This one is also worth 15% of the class grade. I don't think I need to give you a video on this assignment. The information on the assignment worksheet in Blackboard should be enough to tell you what you have to do for this assignment. Okay, and the last writing assignment is actually a video assignment. This is the Chicano video review assignment, in that you're to watch an episode from the famous Chicano, the Mexican American Civil Rights Movement video series, which came out on PBS many years ago, about 20 years ago. So even though the information on that series is a little bit dated, it's still a lot of relevant information, coverage of Cesar Chavez, Corky Gonzalez, Jose Angel Gutierrez, Reyes Lopez Tijerina, Ruben Salazar. Many of the famous Chicano icons from the 1960s and 1970s are covered in these 4 videos. Now, keep in mind, everybody, we're going to actually watch one video, the one on Cesar Chavez and the farm workers. That's going to be part of the required reading and videos in the class. But the other 3 videos we're not going to be watched, so you're to choose one of those 3 videos and give me both a summary and a commentary on your findings. And this is the last main writing assignment. This is going to be due on Friday, October 10th. So the very end of the session, as the session is wrapping up, that Friday, that's when that assignment is due. And like with a lot of the other assignments, this one is also worth 15%. Okay, the last major element that's going to count toward your grade is the discussion forums. And what happens here is that I've already split the class into 3 large groups, and each group is going to go into discussion board and work on 3 separate forums. So group 1, you're going to be working in forums 1, 4, and 7, and then group 2, you'll be working on forums 2, 5, and 7. Because it's an 8-week session, not a 9-week session, I had to double up. So groups 1 and 2, you're going to work jointly on Forum 7. So it's sort of a mega forum so that everybody can work together. And then group 3, you're going to be working on Forums 3, 6, and 8. I've already got the details about what you have to do in terms of choosing questions, who's in which group. So just look in the discussion board, everybody. This way you'll know who's in which group. And as we proceed further in the first week, I'll give you more details in terms of what you have to do. But I don't think I have to make a separate video about discussion board. I think my announcements will pretty much suffice to give you more information. I've already got information already listed in the discussion board in terms of directions and other administrative items. So this is going to count as 10%. So in other words, as long as each of you keep up with your forums, make sure you answer in your 3 required forums, you should have no trouble getting an A or at least a B. People lose a lot of points because they miss a forum or they miss 2 forums. And let me give everybody a warning right here. If you miss 1 forum, the highest grade you can get would be a C on this. So it's very important that you pay attention to not only the group that you're in, but which forums you have to work on. So I don't want anybody to lose points and lose a difference between an A and a B because they missed the forum. I see it happen time and time again. So again, if you want to make sure that you get the highest grade that you deserve, make sure you cover all the forums. Don't miss a forum, because if you miss a forum, the highest grade you can get would be a C for the discussion board process. So keep that in mind, everybody. I don't want anybody to fall into that trap like I've seen so many times in previous classes. Okay. All right, after the discussion section and the rest of the syllabus, let me quickly scroll through because we're already coming up on 25 minutes, so I want to go ahead and stop the video pretty soon. I've got information, of course, about the book. There's the DSPS guidelines, Academic Success Referral Center, plagiarism, all that administrative stuff, so no need for me to really say too much about that. Lessons, I have the schedule spelled out for you so you know exactly what's coming up on a week-by-week basis from this week all the way to the end of the session. Once you scroll past all the schedule, then I've got the course grading structure, so that has all the information in terms of what each thing is worth for the entirety of the session. Okay, let's go up a little bit here. Let me just go up and let me quickly point out a couple of things on the menu for the class. Besides the section where it says Meet Professor Cañedo, announcements, which will be coming on a fairly regular basis, at least 2-3 times a week, I'm going to post announcements. I have the class split up into 8 modules from week 1 through week 8. Each module has the various readings per that week, especially the PDF files and the links to the films. And each module has what's called a module overview essay, which tells you what the best way to approach each reading. That is, what you should start with, what you should be looking out for, blah, blah, blah. And I'll add to that in each module, I'm also going to include a little video in which I basically recap what I'm saying in the overview essay. So this way, you have 2 methods, 2 ways to get the information. One by just reading it, and also from hearing it from me. I try to say. As well. So I'm going to have little videos about the readings and the topics embedded within the modules themselves. So probably, if not today, Monday, most likely tomorrow, Tuesday. That's when I'll post my first video about the readings, which will be embedded in the modules. Okay, the assignment section, of course, that's self-explanatory. That has all the due dates, the particulars, the assignment worksheets. Quizzes. That's where you go in and take the quizzes. Discussion boards. Oh, what I want everybody to do right now is introduce yourself to the class. Go into the discussion board section, go to the introduction section, and basically tell us who you are, where you're from, your background, your interests, what you hope to get out of the class, that type of thing. So I'm obviously doing my introduction for you guys right here. So now it's, of course, my turn to hear what you guys are all about. So definitely sometime this week, early this week, please tell me who you are by posting in the introductions forum. Time Traveler Journals, that's where we're going to post your journal entries. And like I said, I will have a separate video about Time Traveler Journal coming up toward the end of the first week. So roughly about Thursday or Friday, I'll have that ready for you. And we have some other features too, my grades, where you see the grades, course tools, help, and a couple of other features too. But for the most part, I hope this was able to cover all the key points, all the angles about the class. If I missed anything or you're confused about something, definitely let me know right away. You can contact me through my Southwestern email, or better yet, everyone, get into the habit of using Messages for Professor in Blackboard. I'd like to keep all class communications within Blackboard itself, so if we start using that instead of relying on my email, it's going to make things much quicker. So again, especially those who are just getting into the class, maybe adding, you're contacting me by email, that's fine. You can still do that, but I highly recommend that I say by the end of the first week, beginning of the second week, start using Messages for Professor, and this will make things a lot more easier in terms of for me to read and to reply to you in a rapid, deliberate, and timely manner. Okay, let me see what else I need to mention here. I think that covers everything. Okay, that should do it. I know this video was running a bit long, close to a half hour, but I want to make sure that there's no confusion about anything, that all the bases, the angles, the nuts and bolts, whatever cliches you wish to use, all those things are covered. All future videos for the rest of the session won't be this long, so I'll keep the length no more than 15-20 minutes for the rest of the session. So that's it. That's it from here. That's it from my home office here in the township of Winchester. Again, I look forward to working with all of you for these next eight weeks. So hope your first week of class is going well. You're getting all your classes okay. You're not having any trouble with parking, your fees, financial aid, all of that fun stuff. It's been many years since I was in that boat, whether it was UCSD or San Diego State as a graduate student. So I definitely know how hectic the first week can be, but we're going to slowly ease into things this week. The second week, when we start getting into the quizzes, we'll start to pick up the pace, so to speak. Okay, well, that's it, everybody. Again, have a great week. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I can't wait to read all your introductions. And I'll come back and rejoin you within the next couple of days with my first video in which I talk about the topics for this week. All right, that's it. You guys take it easy, and I'll talk to you guys again very soon.